I'll need your signature here and here, the realtor said, sliding the papers across the mahogany desk. The same desk where I'd helped my son with his homework for 15 years. Where I'd paid the property taxes alone every year since his father died. I looked out the window at the sprawling oak tree, its branches reaching toward the window like arthritic fingers. I'd planted that tree the day we brought James home from the hospital. Now it towered over the east wing, casting dappled shadows across the lawn where he once played. The realtor cleared her throat. Mrs. Aldridge? Beth? Are you certain about this? She asked, eyes darting to the selling price. For $0.7 million. Your son called our office again this morning. I kept my pen. I'm certain. She didn't understand. Couldn't possibly. How could she know what it feels like to raise a child in these walls for 29 years, only to be told you're an embarrassment? Too traditional. Too stuffy. Too old-fashioned to attend his wedding. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I sign my name in careful, deliberate strokes. Beth Aldridge, owner of Oak Ridge Manor. At least for the next 30 minutes. Subscribe now if you've ever had to choose yourself over someone who took you for granted, and tell me in the comments, what would you have done in my shoes? The invitation arrived on a Tuesday. Not in the mail. No, that would be too formal, too old-fashioned. It came via email, a digital square of mint green and rose gold. James and Aria's wedding celebration. It proclaimed in a font that looked like handwriting but wasn't. I printed it out, held it in my hands, ran my fingers over the paper as if that might somehow make it more real. June 15th at the Glass House, a modern venue overlooking the city. I marked the date on my calendar, the actual paper one I kept in the kitchen drawer, not the digital one James insisted I should use. You'll love the Glass House, Mom, he said over the phone. Very minimalist. Clean lines, great energy. I nodded, as if he could see me. It sounds lovely. I've already started looking at dresses. The line went quiet. I heard him clear his throat. About that. In the silence that followed, I somehow already knew. Aria and I have been talking and we think, well, the thing is, Mom, we're going for something very specific with this wedding. Very curated. Very intentional. I gripped the phone tighter. Waited. We want an Instagram-worthy event. Everything coordinated. Everything on brand. On brand? A sigh. This is what I mean, Mom. You don't even know what that means. This wedding is important for Aria's influencer career. The right aesthetic, the right people. I sank into the kitchen chair, the same one he'd sat in every morning eating the breakfasts I'd prepared before school. I don't understand what you're saying, James. We think it's best if you attend virtually, Mom. We'll set up a live stream. My hand trembled. A what? A video feed. You can watch from home. In real time. He spoke the words slowly, as if explaining to a child. But I'm your mother. And you're also, well, you're a bit old-fashioned, Mom. Your clothes, your ideas, they don't really fit with the vibe we're going for. Aria's worried you'll stand out in the photos. Not in a good way. The kitchen tilted slightly. I steadied myself against the table. James, I raised you in this house by myself after your father died. I've supported every decision you've made. I paid for your college, your law school. It's not personal, Mom. It's about the aesthetic. You can still be part of the day, just remotely. I see. My voice was very quiet now. And this is your decision? Not just Aria's? A hesitation. It's mutual. Look, I'll come by tomorrow to help you set up the stream, okay? You won't miss anything. After we hung up, I sat at the kitchen table until the room grew dark. Outside, the gardens I'd tended for 30 years disappeared into shadow. The estate that had been in my husband's family for generations, the estate James had always assumed he would inherit, settled around me like a shroud. I thought of the countless dinners I'd cooked in this kitchen. The Christmas mornings by the fireplace in the great room. the summer afternoons in the garden. And now, I wasn't good enough to attend my only son's wedding. Too old-fashioned for their aesthetic. I climbed the stairs to the east wing, each step carrying the weight of a memory. James learning to walk on the landing. James sliding down the banister despite my warnings. James helping me hang garlands at Christmas. In my bedroom, I opened the closet and pulled out the blue dress I'd already bought for the wedding. Nothing extravagant. Nothing that would embarrass anyone. Just a simple blue dress with a matching jacket. Old-fashioned, apparently. I sat on the edge of my bed, the dress across my lap, and for the first time since Robert died 12 years ago, I allowed myself to cry. The Aldridge estate had stood for over a century, passed down through Robert's family, with the understanding that each generation would preserve it for the next. 5 acres of manicured gardens, the stone manor house with its east and west wings, the carriage house we'd converted to a guest cottage. When Robert died unexpectedly of a heart attack, James was only 17. The estate passed to me with the unspoken agreement that one day it would belong to James. I had taken that responsibility seriously. I'd maintained the gardens, updated the plumbing, replaced the roof. I'd done everything to ensure that when the time came, James would receive his inheritance intact. But now, sitting in my bedroom with the wedding invitation crumpled beside me, I wondered why. Why had I spent 12 years of my life preserving a legacy for a son who thought I was too embarrassing to attend his wedding? The next morning, I made a phone call to Stanley Winters, our family attorney since before James was born. "I'd like to discuss selling the estate," I said when he answered. A pause. "Beth, are you sure? I know how much that property means to the family, to James especially." "I'm sure, Stanley." "How quickly can we list it?" He cleared his throat. "Well, properties of this size and value take time to. How quickly, Stanley?" My voice was calm, determined. Another pause. "I can have the paperwork ready by the end of the week. But Beth, I must advise you to think this through. Perhaps discuss it with James before." "That won't be necessary." "Friday, then. I'll come to your office." I hung up and looked around the breakfast room. Sunlight streamed through the bay windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. This had always been my favorite room in the morning. I'd miss it, but not as much as I'd once thought. That afternoon, James arrived as promised to set up the live stream for the wedding. He brought his laptop and some sort of small camera, moving around my sitting room with the confidence of someone who believes technology can solve any problem. "See? You'll be able to see everything," he said, positioning the laptop on my reading table. "The ceremony, the reception. You can even use this chat function to send congratulations." I watched him silently, this stranger who looked like my son. "What do you think?" he asked, straightening. "Pretty great solution, right?" I folded my hands in my lap. "James, do you remember when you were 8 and you had that terrible flu over Christmas?" He frowned at the non sequitur. "I guess so. You were too sick to come downstairs for presents. So what did I do?" A slight softening around his eyes. "You brought Christmas to my room." "That's right. I dragged the entire tree upstairs. Set it up beside your bed. Moved all the presents. Made your father dress as Santa even though you'd stopped believing the year before." "Mom, I would never have told you to watch Christmas on a screen." His face flushed. "That's completely different, is it? Because it seems to me that family should be present for important moments, not watching through glass." He sighed, running a hand through his hair, a gesture so like his father's it made my chest ache. "You're making this difficult, Mom. We're trying to include you in a way that works for everyone." "When your father died," I said quietly, "who sat in the hospital every day for a week? Who arranged the funeral? Who helped you write your eulogy?" "You did." His voice was tight. "And now I'm an embarrassment." "That's not what." He stopped, checked his watch. "Look, I have to go." Area's waiting. The setup is done, so you're all set for the wedding. He packed up his bag and headed for the door. I'll call you tomorrow, okay? I didn't answer. He hesitated in the doorway, then left without another word. After the front door closed, I sat very still in my chair. Through the window, I could see the wrought iron gates at the entrance to the property, gates that had welcomed generations of Aldridges. Gates that James had always assumed would one day be his to pass through whenever he pleased. I picked up my phone and made another call. Marianne? It's Beth Aldridge. Remember when you mentioned your real estate company was looking for signature properties? I think I have something that might interest you. The for sale sign went up on Thursday, 2 weeks before the wedding. I didn't tell James. I didn't have to. By Friday evening, my phone was ringing. There's a sign at the front of the property, he said without greeting. Tell me this is a joke. I was in the library, sorting through books I wanted to keep. It's not a joke, James. You can't sell the estate. It's been in the family for generations. It's meant to be mine. Actually, it's meant to be mine. Your father left it to me. As a custodian. Everyone knows it was supposed to pass to me. His voice cracked with indignation. I ran my fingers along the spine of a first edition Dickens that Robert had cherished. Everyone assumed that, yes. Why are you doing this? Is this because of the wedding? Because that's childish, Mom. Really childish. I placed the book in my keep box. No, James. Childish would be uninviting someone because they don't match your color scheme. This is a business decision. A business, he sputtered. Where will you even go? I've purchased a condo downtown. It has a doorman and a rooftop garden. Very modern. I think you'd approve of the aesthetic. Silence. Mom, he finally said, his voice lower, please don't do this. The estate is my inheritance. My birthright. And attending your wedding was my right as your mother. I kept my voice even. We all make choices, James. This is mine. I'll fight this, he said. Legally, I mean, I'll contest. Contest what? I'm the sole owner. The deed is in my name. I've checked with Stanley, and there are no legal encumbrances. I can sell if I wish to. Another silence, longer this time. Fine, he said finally. Put me in touch with the realtor. I'll buy it from you. I almost laughed. With what money, James? I'll get a mortgage. A loan. Whatever it takes. The asking price is $4.7 million. The property taxes alone are $42,000 a year. Can your new law firm's salary cover that? I could hear him breathing. This isn't right, Mom. You know it isn't. What isn't right is telling your mother she's too embarrassing to attend your wedding. What isn't right is valuing social media photos over family. I paused. The estate goes on the market officially tomorrow. There's already interest from several buyers. Arya and I will change the live stream plan, he said quickly. You can come to the wedding. We'll find you a dress that works with. I'm afraid I'll be busy that day, I interrupted. Meeting with potential buyers. I hung up before he could respond. The following Tuesday, I was in the garden, making notes about which plants I wanted to take to my new home, when I heard the crunch of tires on the gravel driveway. A sleek silver car pulled up, and a young woman emerged, tall, blonde, impossibly thin. Arya. I'd met her exactly twice. Once when James first brought her home for dinner, she'd picked at her food and spent most of the meal checking her phone, and once at Christmas 2 years ago, she'd complained about the lack of vegan options. Mrs. Aldridge, she called, walking toward me with her hand extended. I hope I'm not interrupting. I stood, brushing soil from my gardening gloves. Arya. This is unexpected. She smiled, the practiced smile I'd seen in the photos she was always posting online. I was hoping we could talk. I gestured to the garden bench. Of course. We sat, an awkward distance between us. She crossed her legs, smoothed her immaculate white pants. This is about the house. The estate, I corrected gently. Right, the estate. James is, well, he's not handling this well. I gathered that from his 17 voicemails. She had the grace to look embarrassed. He feels betrayed. Yes, I said. I know something about that feeling. She flinched slightly. Mrs. Aldridge, Beth, please. Beth. She took a breath. I think there's been a misunderstanding. About the wedding. I waited. James said he told you it was my idea. The live stream thing. She twisted a large diamond ring around her finger. It wasn't. Not entirely. This surprised me. Oh. She looked toward the house, its stone facade glowing amber in the afternoon sun. I suggested that maybe we should have a dress code, something cohesive for the photos. But James was the one who said you wouldn't be comfortable with it. That you were traditional. Set in your ways. I see. Something cold settled in my stomach. He said you wouldn't want to wear anything modern, that you'd insist on something that would make you stand out. That you wouldn't be happy unless you did things your way. I thought of the simple blue dress hanging in my closet. Did he now? She nodded. And then he suggested the live stream as a compromise. Said you'd probably prefer it anyway. Less stress, more comfortable. I absorbed this, feeling a chill that had nothing to do with the spring breeze. Why are you telling me this, Arya? She met my eyes directly for the first time. Because I lost my mom when I was 12. Cancer. And I would give anything, to have her at my wedding. Even if she showed up in a potato sack. Tears sprang to my eyes, unexpected and unwelcome. I wanted to tell you that you're welcome at our wedding, she continued. Whatever you want to wear. However you want to be. I don't care about the photos that much. I studied her face, looking for deception but finding none. Thank you for telling me this. She stood, brushing imaginary wrinkles from her pants. So you'll come? And maybe reconsider selling the estate? I rose as well. I'll consider coming to the wedding. The estate is still for sale. Her face fell. But James lied to both of us, Arya. To me about you and to you about me. That reveals something about his character that concerns me deeply. She nodded slowly. I understand. But please think about the wedding. It would mean a lot to me. As she walked back to her car, I noticed for the first time how young she looked. How vulnerable beneath the polished exterior. I felt an unexpected twist of sympathy for her. But the estate would still be sold. The next 2 weeks passed in a flurry of activity. 3 serious offers came in for the estate, 2 above asking price. I accepted the highest, $5.2 million from a tech entrepreneur who planned to preserve most of the original features. The closing was set for the day before James's wedding. James continued to call, his messages growing increasingly desperate, then angry, then pleading. I listened to each one, but didn't call back. What was there to say? He had made his choice long before I made mine. Even Stanley tried to intervene. Beth, I've known your family for 30 years. This feud, it isn't like you. It isn't a feud, Stanley. It's a consequence. Think of what Robert would want. I smiled sadly. Robert would have wanted his son to respect his mother. The day before closing, I walked through the house one last time. Each room held memories. James's first steps in the great room. Birthday parties in the dining room. Midnight conversations in the kitchen when he was a teenager struggling with his father's death. In his old bedroom, untouched since he moved out for college, I sat on the edge of the bed. The walls were still covered with posters, bands he'd loved, movies he'd seen a dozen times. On the bookshelf stood trophies from debate team, Model UN tennis. I'd celebrated each victory with him, comforted each defeat. When had he started seeing me as an embarrassment? When had my love become something shameful? I opened his closet, where a few old clothes still hung. At the back, nearly hidden, was a garment bag. Inside was the suit Robert had worn to our wedding. I'd preserved it all these years, assuming James might want it someday, either to wear or simply to keep as a remembrance. I ran my hand over the fabric, still in perfect condition. Then I zipped the bag closed and left it hanging exactly where it was. Let the new owners find it. Or not. The doorbell rang. My sister Diane come to help with the final packing. You look terrible, she said by way of greeting, pulling me into a hug. Thank you. You always know just what to say. She followed me to the kitchen, where I'd left a bottle of wine breathing. Are you really going through with this? I poured us each a glass. The movers come tomorrow morning. The new owners take possession at noon. She accepted the wine, but didn't drink. And James? What about him? Beth. Her tone was gentle but firm. This house has been in Robert's family for generations. You're punishing your son by erasing his heritage. I took a long sip of wine. I'm not punishing anyone. I'm making a business decision that also happens to be right for me personally. She raised an eyebrow. Okay, I admit it. There's an element of consequence to it. But Diane, he told me I couldn't attend his wedding because I'm too old-fashioned. Too embarrassing. So you're selling his inheritance? Isn't that a bit dramatic? I set down my glass. When Robert died, I could have sold this place and moved somewhere easier to manage. Somewhere I wouldn't have to climb stairs with my arthritis or spend half my pension on maintenance. But I didn't. I stayed because I believed in preserving James's legacy. And now? Now I know that legacy means nothing if there's no respect behind it. She studied me for a long moment, then nodded. Okay, but you might regret this. I might, I agreed. But I've spent too many years putting James's future ahead of my present. It's time that changed. We finished our wine in silence, then started packing the kitchen items I planned to take with me. As we worked, I felt a lightness I hadn't experienced in years, the unburdening of a responsibility I'd carried too long. The morning of the closing, I woke before dawn. My bedroom was mostly packed, just the essentials remaining for this last night. Through the window, I could see the garden in the gray pre-dawn light. The garden where James had learned to walk, where he'd built snowmen, where he'd eventually proposed to Arya beneath the arbor I'd covered with roses. I dressed carefully in a suit I rarely wore, charcoal gray, tailored, with a silk blouse. Not old-fashioned at all. The irony didn't escape me. At 9 o'clock, the movers arrived, efficiently loading my belongings into their truck. By 10:30, they were gone, and the house stood empty except for the furniture included in the sale. At 11 o'clock, I did a final walkthrough, making sure I'd left nothing I couldn't bear to part with. In the library, my fingers lingered on the built-in bookshelves where Robert's collection had once stood. In the dining room, I straightened a chair at the table where we'd shared thousands of meals. At 11:45, I stood in the grand foyer, keys in hand, ready to leave. The doorbell rang. I knew who it was before I opened the door. James stood on the threshold, still in his gym clothes, hair disheveled, face pale. "Mom," he said, voice breaking, "please don't do this." I looked at my son, the baby I'd nursed, the boy I'd raised, the man who had become a stranger. "It's done, James. We signed the final papers in 15 minutes. Cancel it," he pleaded. "I'll pay whatever penalty. I'll take out loans. Just don't sell our home. It's not our home anymore. It's my home, and I've sold it." He stepped inside without being invited, a desperate edge to his movements. "This isn't about the wedding, is it? It's about Dad. About me not being him." The accusation stung. "This has nothing to do with your father, doesn't it? Ever since he died, you've been different. Colder. Like you resent me for being alive when he's not." I stepped back, shocked. "Is that really what you think? What am I supposed to think? You've held on to this place like a shrine to him, and now you're selling it to punish me. It's like you need me to suffer. James, I said quietly, I stayed in this house for you. Because I thought you should have your inheritance intact. I maintained it at great personal cost, financially and otherwise, because I believed that's what a good mother would do. He shook his head. If you were really doing it for me, you wouldn't be selling it now. I'm selling it because I finally realized something important. A legacy without respect is just property. And property can be sold. His face crumpled. I respect you, Mom.
Do you?
I checked my watch. We should leave for the attorney's office.
No.
He planted himself more firmly. I'm not moving until you agree to stop this dicide. James, the buyers will be at Stanley's office in 10 minutes. The paperwork is ready. This is happening whether you accept it or not. Then I'll contest it afterward. I'll sue. I'll claim you're not mentally competent. A cold fury washed over me. That would be a mistake.
Why?
Because you'd cut me off completely? Go ahead. This house is worth more to me than whatever else you think you can take away. Arya came to see me, I said quietly. He froze.
What?
She told me the truth about the wedding, about who really suggested I shouldn't attend. The color drained from his face. She's confused. I never stop lying, James. It's beneath you. I moved toward the door. I'm leaving now. You're welcome to follow me to the closing, but you cannot stop it. He grabbed my arm. Mom, please. I was wrong about the wedding. I was embarrassed, and I handled it badly. But don't punish me like this. Don't take away the only connection I have left to Dad. I looked down at his hand on my arm, then back to his face. Your connection to your father isn't this house. It's the values he tried to teach you. The integrity he hoped you'd develop. The respect for others he believed was fundamental. If you do this, he said, his voice hardening, we're done. I won't forgive you. I gently removed his hand from my arm. That's your choice to make. Just as this is mine. I walked past him, out the front door, and down the steps for the last time. Behind me, I heard a sound, half sob, half shout of rage. I didn't turn around. In the car, my hands trembled slightly as I started the engine. Had I gone too far? Was Diane right? Would I regret this? For a moment, doubt crept in. Then I remembered the kitchen chair where I'd sat when he told me I wasn't welcome at his wedding. I remembered the careful explanation that I didn't fit the aesthetic. I remembered the years of putting his needs before my own. I drove away from the Aldridge estate for the last time, toward a future that was finally, entirely mine. The condo was everything the estate wasn't: compact, modern, efficient. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city skyline. The kitchen gleamed with stainless steel appliances I'd never used before. The single bedroom had a walk-in closet larger than some apartments. I spent the first night surrounded by boxes, sitting on the only piece of furniture I'd brought from the estate, Robert's reading chair. It felt out of place here, its worn leather and weathered wood incongruous against the sleek white walls. I slept badly, waking every hour expecting to hear the familiar creaks of the old house settling. Instead, there was only the distant hum of the city and the occasional siren. The wedding was tomorrow. Arya had sent a text. The invitation still stands. No live stream. Just you as part of our family. I hadn't responded. I still didn't know if I would go. In the morning, I unpacked methodically, arranging my books on the built-in shelves, hanging my clothes in the closet, setting up the kitchen with the few items I'd kept. By noon, the condo looked lived in, if not quite like home. My phone rang, an unfamiliar number. Mrs. Aldridge? This is Patricia Winters, Stanley's wife. Patricia. Hello. I'm calling about James. Her voice was hushed. He's here at our house. He came to see Stanley about contesting the sale, but he's in quite a state. He's been drinking, and he's saying some concerning things. My heart tightened. What sort of things? That he has nothing left. That he's lost everything that matters. A pause. Stanley thought you should know. I closed my eyes. Thank you for calling, Patricia. Is Stanley there? May I speak with him? A moment later, Stanley's familiar voice came on the line.
Beth.
I want to be clear, I'm not taking sides here. But I'm worried about James. So am I admitted. What's he saying exactly? That without the estate, there's no point. That he's failed the family legacy. He's talking about canceling the wedding. I sank into Robert's chair. Because of the house? Because he says he has nothing to offer Arya now. No inheritance, no family home. Just his salary and his student loans. That's ridiculous. Arya doesn't care about the estate. She cares about him.
I think you should talk to him, Beth.
I know you're angry, and you have every right to be. But he's still your son. After we hung up, I sat very still, considering. Had I gone too far? Had my desire for James to face consequences turned into something uglier? A need to see him suffer? I thought of Robert, of what he would say if he were here. He'd been firm but fair, quick to discipline but quicker to forgive. I picked up my phone again and dialed James's number. It went straight to voicemail. James, it's Mom. I heard you're at the Winters house. I'd like to talk. Please call me back. An hour passed. Then 2. No return call. Finally, I called an Uber and gave the driver the Winters address. As we drove through the city toward the suburbs, I practiced what I would say. Not an apology. I wouldn't apologize for valuing myself. But perhaps an olive branch. The Winters lived in a Tudor-style home not unlike the estate, though smaller and more recently built. As the Uber pulled away, I stood on their porch, gathering my courage. Before I could ring the bell, the door opened. Stanley looked relieved to see me. He's in the den, he said quietly. Still pretty upset. I followed him through the house to a wood-paneled room where James sat slumped in an armchair, a tumbler of amber liquid in his hand. He looked up as I entered, his eyes red-rimmed. If it isn't the woman of the hour, he said, his words slightly slurred. Come to see the damage? Stanley murmured something about giving us privacy and left, closing the door behind him. I sat in the chair opposite James. I got a concerning call. He laughed, a harsh sound without humor. Concerned about what? Your investment? Don't worry, the check cleared. I'm concerned about you.
Now?
Now you're concerned? After you sold the only thing that mattered. He took a long swallow of his drink. If the house was the only thing that mattered, James, then I did the right thing by selling it. He stared at me. Do you have any idea what you've done? That estate was everything. The Aldridge name, the Aldridge legacy. The Aldridge legacy isn't a building, James. It's how we treat people. It's the values we uphold. Save the lecture, he spat. You sold my birthright because your feelings were hurt. Because you couldn't stand not being the center of attention at my wedding. I leaned forward. Is that really what you think? That I sold a multi-million-dollar property in a fit of pique? What else am I supposed to think? That perhaps I finally realized I'd been preserving something that no longer deserved preservation. That I'd been sacrificing my own comfort, my own future, for someone who didn't value me enough to want me at his wedding. It wasn't like that, he muttered. It was exactly like that, James. You told Arya I was too old-fashioned, too embarrassing. You suggested the live stream, not her. He didn't deny it. I've spent 12 years maintaining that estate for you. Paying the taxes, the maintenance, the staff, all so you could one day inherit it intact. I put my life on hold. I didn't travel, didn't downsize, didn't invest in my own comfort. All for you. I didn't ask you to do that, he said, but his voice had lost its edge. No, you didn't. You just expected it. Expected me to be the custodian of your inheritance while treating me like an embarrassment. I paused. Did it ever occur to you that I might have wanted a different life after your father died? A smaller home, less responsibility, more freedom? He looked down at his glass.
You never said anything.
Because mothers are supposed to sacrifice, aren't they? We're supposed to put our children first, always. Even when they're grown. Even when they no longer appreciate it. He was silent for a long moment. So, this was your revenge? No, I said firmly. This was my liberation. This was me finally choosing myself. At my expense. At the expense of expectations you never earned. I leaned back. Stanley says you're thinking of canceling the wedding. He shrugged. What's the point? I have nothing to offer her now. If that's truly how you feel, you shouldn't marry her. Not because you lack an inheritance, but because you clearly don't understand what marriage is about. His head snapped up. What's that supposed to mean? Marriage isn't about what material things you bring to the relationship. It's about partnership, respect, mutual support. Your father and I started with nothing. We built our life together. It's different now, he argued. Everything's more expensive, more competitive. Excuses, I said gently. If you love Arya, if she loves you, that's your foundation. Everything else is just property. He set down his glass, ran his hands over his face. I don't know who I am without the estate. Without the Aldridge name behind me. Then it's time you found out. I stood. The wedding is tomorrow. Arya deserves a decision from you. Are you coming? He asked, looking up at me. To the wedding? I hesitated. Do you want me there? Truly? Yes, he said, and for the first time, I heard sincerity in his voice. Please come, Mom. Then I'll be there. I moved toward the door, then paused. And James? I've set aside part of the proceeds from the sale. Not for you, at least not directly.
For your children, someday.
A trust fund for their education, for their start in life. Because that's what family does. We provide for the future, not just preserve the past. He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Thank you. As I left the Winters house, a weight lifted from my shoulders. Not completely gone, but lighter. I had chosen myself, yes, but I hadn't abandoned my son. I'd simply changed the terms of our relationship. The glass house lived up to its name, a modernist structure of steel and transparency perched on a hillside overlooking the city. Inside, white flowers and greenery created an atmosphere of understated elegance. Not old-fashioned at all, but beautiful in its own way. I wore the blue dress after all. Not because I needed to prove anything, but because I liked it. It felt right. Guests mingled in the reception area, champagne glasses in hand. I recognized a few faces, James's colleagues, some family friends. No one from Robert's side of the family. Perhaps they'd been uninvited too.
Beth.
I turned to see Arya hurrying toward me, radiant in a simple white gown that fell in clean lines to the floor. No veil, no train, modern, minimalist, lovely. You came, she said, embracing me. I wasn't sure you would. I almost didn't, I admitted. She drew back, studying my face. James told me what happened. About the estate. Did he tell you everything? Including his role in it? She nodded. It took some time, but yes. He finally admitted the truth. She glanced around, then lowered her voice. It made me question everything. Whether I should go through with today. This surprised me. Why wouldn't you? Because if he could lie about something so important, what else might he lie about? If he could disrespect his mother so deeply, how might he treat me someday? Wise questions from someone so young. And what did you decide? A small smile. That people can change. That mistakes, even terrible ones, don't have to define us if we learn from them. She squeezed my hand. He's been different since you sold the estate. Humbled. More authentic. Before I could respond, the wedding planner approached, signaling that it was time. Arya kissed my cheek and hurried away to prepare for her entrance. I found my seat, third row, next to Diane, who looked shocked to see me. "You're here," she whispered as I sat down. "Apparently, I'm not too old-fashioned for the aesthetic after all," I said dryly. She smiled and took my hand.
I'm glad. For both of you.
The ceremony was brief, but meaningful. When James appeared at the front, his eyes immediately found mine in the audience. He looked nervous, vulnerable, but also determined. Gone was the entitled young man who had dismissed me so easily. In his place stood someone on the cusp of understanding what truly matters. As Arya joined him and they exchanged vows, I found myself thinking of Robert. Of our own wedding, so different from this sleek affair, but filled with the same hope, the same promises. He would have been proud of James today, not because he was continuing the Aldridge name, but because he was finally growing into the man we had raised him to be. At the reception, I kept to myself, content to observe from a table near the windows. The view was spectacular, city lights beginning to twinkle as the sun set, the sky painted in shades of orange and pink. "Is this seat taken?" James stood beside me, champagne glass in hand. "It's your wedding," I said. "I think you can sit wherever you like." He sat, loosening his tie slightly. "It's strange," he said after a moment. "I always thought I'd get married at the estate. Under the oak tree or in the garden." "I know, but this is nice too."
Different but nice.
He sipped his champagne. "Arya loves it. That's what matters." He turned to face me fully.
I'm sorry, Mum.
Not just about the wedding invitation. About everything. About taking you for granted. About assuming the estate would be mine no matter how I treated you. I studied his face. The face I'd known from his first breath.
Thank you for saying that.
I mean it. And I want you to know, I understand why you sold it. I don't like it, but I understand it. That's progress, I said, smiling slightly. He returned the smile, tentative but genuine. "We're staying in the city after the honeymoon. Near your new place, actually. Maybe we could have dinner sometimes." "I'd like that. And Mom." His voice became serious again. "About the trust fund you mentioned. For my future children? That's generous, but I think I'd rather they earn what they get. The way you did. The way I'm learning to." Something warm bloomed in my chest, pride, perhaps, or hope. "We can discuss it. Later." He nodded and stood. "I should get back to Arya. Save me a dance?" "Of course." As he walked away, I watched him move through the crowd, stopping to speak with guests, his hand finding areas when he reached her side. He was different now. There was a humility to his posture, a thoughtfulness in his interactions. The estate was gone, yes. The Aldridge legacy, as we had known it, was altered irrevocably. But perhaps something better was taking its place, something built on respect rather than obligation, on love rather than expectation. I turned back to the window, to the darkening sky and the city lights below. My new home was out there somewhere, waiting for me to truly settle in. My new life, unburdened by a past that no longer served me. I had sold more than an estate. I had sold the weight of expectations, the burden of sacrifice, the pain of being taken for granted. And I had purchased something priceless, the right to choose myself, finally, and without apology. When James came to claim that dance later, I took his hand without hesitation. As we moved across the floor, I caught our reflection in the glass walls, mother and son, old and new, past and future.
You look happy, he said.
I am, I replied. And for the first time in years, it wasn't a lie. The new owners of the Aldridge estate had done a magnificent job with the holiday decorations. From where I stood at the entrance to the grand driveway, I could see twinkling lights outlining the roof and windows, wreaths on every door, and what appeared to be a massive Christmas tree visible through the great room windows. "Are you sure about this?" James asked beside me, stomping his feet against the December cold. "I'm sure," I said, though my heart beat a little faster as we approached the house that had been my home for over 30 years. The tech entrepreneur who had purchased the estate, Marcus Chen, had reached out unexpectedly 3 weeks ago with an invitation. "We're hosting a holiday open house for the neighborhood," he'd written. "We'd be honored if you would attend. We've made some changes, but tried to respect the home's history." I hadn't planned to accept. What good could come from seeing strangers in my spaces, changing what I had preserved for so long? But then James had called. "Arya and I got an invitation to the estate," he'd said. "From the new owners. Did you get one too?"
I did.
"I think we should go. Together." "Why would you want to do that?" I'd asked, surprised. A pause. "Because I think it might help us both move on." And so here we were, walking up the familiar drive toward the house that now belonged to someone else. Arya had stayed home. She was in her first trimester, the morning sickness still too strong to risk an evening out. The news of the pregnancy had come as a surprise to all of us, but a welcome one. At the door, a young woman greeted us warmly. "You must be Beth Aldridge," she said, taking my coat. "And James. I'm Lin Chen, Marcus's wife. He's told me so much about you both. Please come in." The foyer was just as I remembered, but with subtle differences, new artwork on the walls, different lighting fixtures. The scent of pine and cinnamon filled the air, reminiscent of my own holiday traditions, but with a modern twist. "We've kept most of the architectural features," Lynn explained as she led us through. "Marcus fell in love with the craftsmanship. But we've updated the kitchen and some of the bathrooms." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak quite yet. It was surreal being a guest in these rooms where I had once been mistress. The great room was filled with people. Neighbors I recognized, faces I didn't. In the center stood the Christmas tree, at least 15 feet tall, decorated with silver and blue ornaments. Different from my traditional red and gold scheme, but beautiful in its own right.
Beth.
Marcus Chen approached, hand extended. "I'm so glad you came. I've been hoping for a chance to show you what we've done with the place." He was younger than I'd expected, maybe 40, with an easy smile and an unpretentious manner. "It looks wonderful," I said and meant it. "You've honored the bones of the house while making it your own. That was our goal," he said, clearly pleased. "Would you like a tour? There are some things I'd love your input on." For the next hour, Marcus led James and me through the house, pointing out changes they'd made, improvements to the infrastructure, plans for the gardens. He asked questions about the history of certain features, listened intently to my answers. In James's old room, now a guest bedroom, Marcus paused. "We found something here," he said. "In the closet. A suit in a garment bag. It seemed important, vintage, but perfectly preserved." James looked at me, questioning. "Your father's wedding suit," I explained quietly. "I thought you might want it back," Marcus said, crossing to the closet and emerging with the familiar garment bag. It seemed too personal to just keep. James took the bag, his hands trembling slightly. "Thank you," he managed. "This means a lot." Later, as the party wound down, I found myself alone in the library. The bookshelves had been filled with new volumes, but the reading chair by the window, Robert's favorite spot, remained unchanged. I ran my fingers along the wooden arm, worn smooth by years of use. "Do you regret it?" I turned to find James in the doorway, the garment bag draped over his arm. "Selling the estate?" I considered the question carefully.
No.
"I don't regret the decision itself. I regret that it came to that. I regret that I felt it was necessary." He nodded, entering the room fully. "I've been thinking about something you said, about legacy not being about buildings or things, but about values." "Yes, I think I understand that now, especially with the baby coming." He looked around the library. "This place is beautiful, and it has history, but it's just a house. What matters is what we carry forward, how we treat each other, what we stand for. I felt tears threatening and blinked them away. Your father would be proud to hear you say that. James smiled, a hint of sadness in his eyes. I wish he was here to see all this. The changes. The baby. He held up the garment bag. At least I have this. A piece of him to keep. You have more than that, I said. You have his values, his integrity. Or, at least, you're finding your way back to them. We stood in companionable silence for a moment, surrounded by the ghosts of our past, but no longer haunted by them. Ready to go? James asked finally. I looked around the library one last time, absorbing the changes, acknowledging what remained the same. Yes, I said. I'm ready. As we walked out of the Aldridge estate for what might be the last time, I felt not grief, but a curious sense of completion. I had made my choice. To value myself, to demand respect, to rewrite the terms of my relationship with my son. The cost had been high, but the reward was this. Walking side by side with James as equals, both of us changed, both of us growing. In my condo that night, I placed the Christmas cactus Aria had given me on the windowsill, where it could catch the morning light. Its pink blooms were just beginning to open, new life unfolding in its own time. Outside, the city sparkled with holiday lights. Inside, my smaller, simpler home felt exactly right. A space I had chosen, a life I had claimed. Some might call it old-fashioned to stand up for your own worth, to insist on respect, to value dignity over harmony. If so, then perhaps being old-fashioned wasn't such a bad thing after all. I was Beth Aldridge, no longer the custodian of a legacy, but the author of my own story. And this chapter, unexpected as it was, felt like the beginning of something true. If this story resonated with you, hit that subscribe button right now and join our community. Have you ever had to make a difficult choice to protect your self-worth? Share your experience in the comments below. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss our next story of standing up for yourself when it matters most.